welcome to the GoBundance Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber, and we had an amazing guest today, a man I had not met yet to this point. That's a part of GoBundance named Michael Nelson. He's the owner of a company out of Sacramento, California. He's just starting to get into passive deals in real estate to build his horizontal income. And we talked about incredible topics from his life. I mean, this is a man who struggled with alcoholism, who failed in his first entrepreneurial endeavor during the dot-com crisis or crash of the late 90s into the early 2000s, who recently was diagnosed with cancer, but who's also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, who's run an ultra marathon on 4 different continents and is going to do so in Antarctica, in a destination in Antarctica that most people don't go to. You'll hear a lot about that. This is a man that's accomplished a ton. He's goal focused. He's even written a book on the subject that we talk about in some depth in this interview. That and so much more in a wide-ranging interview. I love this about the GoBundance community. I get to meet people, and every time I do, I'm blown away by their story, their perseverance, their ability to overcome, and the success they've had, just not only financially, but also in other areas of life. So I hope you truly enjoy this interview. Make sure you subscribe, like, and drop a comment with your thoughts on this interview with GoBundance member Michael Nelson. Michael, welcome.
Thanks, Jamie. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, man. Glad to have you. So let's talk a little bit about you. You're in Sacramento. Are you from Sacramento? Give us kind of the story of you from then to now.
Yeah, actually, born and raised in Sacramento. So I've been here my whole life. I've actually traveled and lived abroad a couple of times. I went to school, did my junior year abroad in Bordeaux, France, and then straight out of college threw everything into a backpack and moved over to Hawaii for a year. Did that. That was kind of my final gap year, as it were. Came back, became a school teacher. I was actually a public school, middle school teacher, taught language arts, history. Then I got a computer lab. I actually got one of the first computer labs in the district. This was back in mid-90s, early 90s. Did that for about a year and a half, and the World Wide Web came out. So I built a website for our school back, I mean, literally, this was way before, even before Netscape existed. Did that, built it for a school. A friend of my dad's ran a business, and he said, hey, I've this internet thing, would you build a website for my company? And I did. Cheapest man I've ever met in my life. Had no idea what to charge him. And said how much? And I said, $150. And he goes, yeah, that's not anywhere near enough. And he gave me more money. And I thought, might be onto something here. So I started my first business, which was the web design firm, with the intention, so that was in September of 95, the intention I'd do that for a few years until it was big enough that I could afford to quit teaching school. Long story short, in 2 months, 3 months, I had 2 employees and I was still teaching. So I had to drop down to half-time. And by 7 months later, I had to quit completely and just go full-time into the company. It exploded. I did the entire dot-com explosion, went from 7 to 32 people, way too fast, cash flow problems, the whole 9 yards. Took on a line of credit to get through the cash flow issues. And then, of course, the whole dot bomb just destroyed everything. So I got to have the fun experience of being that millionaire on paper and then getting to lose absolutely everything. I mean, literally, I lost everything to my name. Got to restart at 39 and started the second business, TLC Tech, and I've been doing that. I went back to teaching for a year to kind of lick my wounds till a friend took me out and for dinner and said, what are you going to do next? And I said, yeah, I'm going to stay as a teacher, vacations, healthcare, all like, no, that she just gave me a horrible time. And by the end of the night, I have the, napkin business plan for this business. So we're now 17 years old now.
Wow. And we'll get into what TLC Tech does and all of that here in a moment. But can you go back to, you call it the dot bomb? It's funny, I never heard that, but it makes sense to call it that. It was always the dot-com crash, right? That's what everybody says. What you said, I don't mean to make you relive the pain, but can you give us a little bit of perspective on, when you say lost it all, millionaire on paper, lost it all. Can you give me just, what did you have to go through in that time? What did life look like? What were the things you had to do in order to kind of recover and then go get a teaching job?
Well, funny you used recovery because that was part of it. By the time all of this imploded, I was also a raging alcoholic. So that didn't help matters either. I ended up getting sober shortly after I started this business that I have now. So I've been sober about 17 years, but the business, it grew so fast, and that's, trying to grow a business that fast purely from cash flow. Especially we had government contracts. We had built the website for the California State Lottery, for Secretary of State. We had some pretty large accounts that are net 60, net 90s payable. Well, when you don't have lines of credit and you haven't built up cash flow, it becomes almost impossible to weather a downturn. And we had, we'd grown so fast, we had to have the staff. And as long as people were paying and the new clients were coming on, it was fine. But as soon as everybody kind of got wind that the dot bomb was coming, we had huge contracts on the books ready to sign. And of course, they all canceled. And it just snowballed from there. We had a line of credit that I didn't use the correct way. I was young and stupid. Great thing. I got to learn what never to do in a business again. But long story short, there was a line of credit for $250,000. They called the line of credit and I said, not possible. You're going to bankrupt the company. They said, we don't care. So pulled in another company. They got to buy it for pennies on the dollar, made sure that all of our clients were taken care of. The staff was taken care of. So I got to exit it with honor, but I also got to lose everything. So like I said, at 39, I mean, literally I had about $4,000 to my name at 39 years of age.
Wow. And so you were essentially living paycheck to paycheck as a business, is what it boils down to.
Oh, even hell, not even paycheck to paycheck and using credit cards. Yeah. And that's what I learned of and the other thing is, we weren't paying attention to margins. It was, I was looking at the P&L, but I wasn't looking at the balance sheet. And I was young. It was my first business. So this business, we really pay attention. We pay attention to the margins of all the different divisions of my company, the balance sheet. We've grown this one. I've grown this one entirely on cash flow. We have a line of credit, but it's used for 15 days, for 30 days, not as a term loan, which is what I did in the first business.
Makes sense. Okay. No, I got you. You mentioned alcoholism. That's heavy. Is that, did that correlate with the beginning of the decline, or was that something that was in play that you already were prior to?
No, that was already in play. Just the downfall made it easy. So in February of, I think it was 2001, I laid off 11 people out of 32. And it just, basically I climbed in. That's when I kind of full-time climbed into a bottle. Got into recovery in about May, made it for about 90 days. Actually, the 90th day was September 11th. And it was just the perfect excuse to go out and start again. So I did that. And by then the company was gone. Went back to teaching. And, I was a functioning alcoholic, but I was certainly one. So I went back to teaching, did that for a year, figured out I had been on my own for too long. And all of everybody that's an entrepreneur knows once you've been on your own, you can't go back. So that's when I figured out that I needed to do something else, started the current company, and within a matter of weeks, I got sober.
Wow. And have stayed. You said 17
years.
Oh,
yeah.
That's incredible. And just for context, what's the work that you have to put in day to day still? I'm sure you do in order to remain sober. Is it meetings? Is it?
It's really not that big of a deal to me now. Everybody in my life knows that I am. I've always had, and this is, this will piss some people off, but I've always had a love-hate relationship with AA. There's a lot of people stay where they're at, and I really wanted to grow. I don't want to hear about the same problems over and over. Have a problem, deal with it, fix it, move on. So I've not been in the first quite a few years. I went to AA very consistently, and it's really, really important for that. I'm really lucky that I've got the great group of people around me that, I'm sure we'll talk about running. I got into long distance running, so I have a lot of people in my life that do that. So you are the people you spend the 5 most time with. You're the average of it's John-Luc Dumas. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And for that, I've got people that just alcohol isn't really part of their life.
I love it.
So it's really, now it's just a way of life now. I don't take it for granted, and it's not easy. but it's not something that comes up hardly ever for me anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you've figured out a way for you, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
AA served you to a certain point, and
yeah,
then you felt like, you know what, I need another way. And to your
yeah,
point, you surround yourself with runners, distance athletes, whatever, where alcohol isn't really in the equation, and your network is aware of what you
yeah,
suffered through for a long time. So, you've got it built around you the way that works for you. That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Entrepreneurship. Talk to me a little bit about that, because you went the tried and true route right up until, it sounds like, what, 25, 26 years old, before you kind of discovered this skill of building websites, and that your skill had a demand for it. Were you always an entrepreneur? I asked this question of a lot of guys. Were you always an entrepreneur? Do you feel, looking back, reflecting back, is it something that you became? Just kind of your thoughts on that generally.
No, it was always there. The reason I left is thinking about getting suspended from junior high school, because I'd go to the corner store and buy candy, for, I don't know, 10 cents and sell it for 25 cents at school. So I got suspended for doing that. So I always have done things like that.
You got suspended for being a capitalist?
Of course. Oh yeah, come on.
Boy, oh boy, that's scary. That's a little scary, but yeah.
And even worse, I was at the time, most of my childhood, my parents both worked in the school district, and my dad was president of the teachers union, and everybody knew who my father was. And for good reason. He did extremely well by them, got them great raises, a great contract. He was extremely liberal. And as I started my own businesses, I've certainly gone the other direction.
Wow. Very interesting, but incredible story. And kudos to you for applying learnings. It sounds like easily your life could have gone in one direction, and you've sort of picked it up and have made a hell of a life for yourself. So congrats to you, and great to get to know your story a bit. Let's dive into the one sheet, sort of the baseball card of your life, as we call it. So we're going to go pillar by pillar through the 6 pillars of GoBundance, starting with the first, which is horizontal income. And the first question is easy. What is your horizontal income, and how many lines is that?
So it's interesting. Right now it's at 15,000, a little over 15,000 for the year. Expected to be about 35. Now, there's debate, and even within my GoPod, but my primary business, I take a W-2 wage as the president of the company, and then I have distributions. Technically, the distributions should be on the horizontal income, but one of the primary reasons I joined GoBundance was because I wanted to get passive income, and I wanted to be around people that did that. So it's really easy to have my horizontal income look incredibly well because of my primary business. So I've intentionally kept that out. I put all of that under my vertical income so that it's purely and absolutely only passive income. So when I joined, I had a couple of rental properties and a couple of business properties that I owned. And I really thought that's how I was going to build. Really interesting growth time in my primary business. One of my renters gave notice. She'd first renter I'd had in that house. And I just did not have the time, inclination, or desire to have to deal with finding, to find somebody. And it wasn't cash flowing enough to be able to hire an agency to do it. And I thought, why am I doing this? And by then I had been exposed to syndicated deals. And so I thought, nope, that's where I'm headed. So number of lines, right now it's 5 lines. 3 of them, however, are very new. I've just put in about 250 this year into new deals. So I did my first 2 syndicated deals last year. That generated a little bit. And then I put another 100 into another deal about a month ago. And so that's starting to generate.
Nice. And the ones from last year, have they gone through their cycle yet? I mean,
No. They're all, no. They're everything's 3 to 7 years. So no, they haven't gone through the cycle yet.
Okay, cool. So once you get a return of that capital, you'll dump back
Right.
in, and you'll start keeping, the snowball sort of begins. So.
And then I had the other rental house, and funny story. Being in Sacramento, there's this. We've got the American River, and there's this great parkway. It's just an amazing, beautiful parkway, and one of my lifelong dreams had always been to have a house on the river. And one of my best friends, my accountability buddy, became a real estate agent. He said, hey, we're going to, watch for any house that goes up for sale. We're going to go visit. I'm like, it's 3 to 5 years at least before I can afford to do that. And he said, yep, we're just dream building. And sure enough, house showed up, walked in, and I could not have designed a more perfect house. I mean, it was just utterly and absolutely perfect. Way too soon. So I'm stretched. I'm trying to figure out that. Should I, all of this. And the first office building I had bought for my business I had some equity in it, but it had really gone down a lot. And it was in this shared walls. So it's like 3 buildings. And the guy in the middle wanted my unit. And he calls me unsolicited, says, will you sell it? I said, the place across the way was like 30,000 less than I had paid for mine and still open. And I said, I don't want to lose money. He said, how much did you pay? He told him, and he offered me $5,000 more. And this was right when I'm trying to make the decision about, this dream house. And it's like, okay, so that's that. And then I sold my primary house. And then just recently I sold my last commercial property. So I'm plowing that back into these syndicated deals.
Very cool. Good for you. So you got your dream house. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Got this unbelievable. It's just, I couldn't have, like I said, designed it or dreamt it better.
It's funny how when you feel that sense of purpose, that full alignment with whatever it is, and not to get woo-woo here, but how suddenly you get a call about your commercial space and the offer is just right in the right time for you to get what you want to get. There's something to this universe thing. I don't know what it is, but there's something to it. And you hear story after story after story. I don't know if there's a tactical way to tap into it. There probably is that I haven't figured out, but it definitely works. So great story. I love hearing about that. What's your horizontal to net worth ratio currently?
Horizontal to net worth. That one's actually really low. It's less than 1%.
Yeah. Well, you're building your horizontal at this point, right? So it's still in that snowball.
And again, because I put everything into the vertical, I could have moved that over to the line, could have had that, that actually could have been probably 15, 20%. But that's not why I joined GoBundance. So I really want to keep the primary business income out of that.
You know what I like about that too? This is for those that are in GoBundance or in the Ascend program or whatever listening. Anybody that's done a one sheet, the question often comes up about, okay, what counts as horizontal? What counts as this? What about this? What about that? And what I love, the best answer I've ever heard was like, what's your pod say, right? Or what do you say? So you've decided for you, here's how I'm going to track it for me. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be, even Steven, like, this is how you don't want to be crazy out there. Like tell yourself your business is a 20 multiple when the industry is 3. I mean, that's probably not the most integrity, but to your point, hey, I could juice the horizontal income line. I can increase my percentage or status and pound my chest, but it doesn't serve the purpose of why I'm here. So you chose to do it this way. I love it. On that end, what percentage are you currently? I know that's going to be low right now. But
currently 15%.
That's growing, which is awesome. Very cool. Let's jump over to age-defying health. So what is your body weight and your body fat percentage?
Okay, age-defying health. So weight is at 185, body fat about 13%.
Wow. Okay, and are you a taller guy?
Yeah, 6'2".
6'2". I was going to say 13% is pretty good. I was with one of the guys down in Miami. He's at like 8%. You could see it, but 13% is pretty fit. So what does the diet look like for you?
Mainly plant-based, which helps. Also, I'm a long distance runner, and full disclosure, I was diagnosed with cancer in December. So went through treatment. And so I kind of got what I called the cancer weight, and I've actually been able to maintain it from there. So I lost about 8 pounds. I used to be high 180s, low 190s. But then through the treatment, ended up obviously losing some weight. And so I've just managed to keep it there. So I thought, well, okay, that's going to be a side benefit. Let's run with that.
What, I guess, what can you give us any, how is that? How are you doing? I guess, I don't know.
So I went through the treatment. Now we're in the kind of the weight. It's a 5 year, it's 5 years now that, every 3 to 6 months, they'll be doing the follow-up. I just had the first scan. They want me to go in and do another one just for a little bit more clarity. They're unsure if it's, mass leftover or scar tissue. So finding out from that.
And my prayers are with you. That's altering, life altering, perspective shifting for sure. So yeah.
And talk about helping you identify what matters in life. Yeah.
What does? Can you go through that if you don't mind? I mean, I think that's a really good point. Like you went through something that all of us dread, and I know every one of us would change our behavior if we're going through what you're going through. What did change for you?
So the interesting thing I've been, and we'll talk, I'm sure, about it a little bit later. I've been really goal oriented. So I've got, uh, it's a goal sheet where I look at it every day, and I have my weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, 3-year and 10-year goals. So I've always been very clear on what matters in my life and where I want to get to. One of them is on April 12th, 2023 at 10:22 a.m. I'm taking a 3-month sabbatical. That's because that came from a book which anybody that has a business should read, Making Money is Killing Your Business. And he talks about the 7 phases of a business, which, stage 4 is you've got managers, you're starting, but you're still involved in the day-to-day. Stage 5 is you're starting to hand things off. Stage 6 is you've handed off most of it, but there's still things that you want to do. Stage 7 is you go on a 3-month sabbatical, you come back, one of the new employees leans over to the other guy and says, "Who's that?" And the guy says, I think that's the owner. And so 5 years ago, we set or about 4 years ago now, we set the goal that I would take my 3-month sabbatical in April of 2023. So we've been building the company to do that. Back to the question of what it does for perspective is we don't know how long we have. I don't know, this survival rate of this is very good, but it still changes life. So I'm going to probably be stepping out of the day-to-day a little bit more and focusing more on what I want to do in the business, not what I have to do. So we've kind of accelerated that up a little bit. I've got an absolutely incredible operations manager. He's going to become president of the company in February. So we're kind of building up and handing off the last steps that we need for him to have full control of the day-to-day so that I get to focus on what matters to me. Just spending time with my family, with friends, and traveling.
So is the sabbatical date changing? And I apologize if I missed it. So you had 2023, correct?
Originally, it was 2022. COVID just kind of screwed everything up for a year, so we just added a year onto it. So 2023, I'm doing a 3-month sabbatical, and that'll be completely and absolutely offline. 2022, so I just rented a house in PV, Puerto Vallarta, for a month in April of next year. That's going to be our first little kind of trial run of me completely out of everything.
I'm just curiosity for me, because I think I'm putting myself in your shoes to the extent that I'm able to. If I'm in your shoes, I feel like, and maybe this is me, I'm going next month. You know what I mean? Like, I know you're going through treatment and everything. So I guess the question is, why not do it sooner? Is it a death knell to your company if you were to go away for that test month, even like in August or September of this year?
Well, July, I'm booking my trip to France. August, I'm going to the coast with the family. October, I'm doing my epic trip for the year with one of my best friends. So no, I mean, travel's always been a huge piece. So I'm doing that, and I'm doing more of that, but the company's not ready. I still have direct reports. We're not quite there yet, but that's why we moved it up. And so February of next year, that's when my ops manager officially becomes the president. So yeah, we're building towards that, but it's, we're a multi-million-dollar company. We're about 19, 20 people right now. So it's not fast turning. We want to do it in a way that we make sure that the processes are well-defined, understood, and hand them off correctly.
Yeah. And you said, so you're scratching that itch through other ways over the next.
Oh yeah.
Which is great to hear. Yeah. Great to hear. I'm happy for you for that. Wow. Yeah. Definitely keep us up. Let us know how you're doing. I mean, it's that's heavy. Like you said, survival rate's high, that's great. Hopefully caught early, all of the things you hear about,
Yep.
Of course, hope the best for you, but wow, that is jarring. No doubt about it. You mentioned you are mostly plant-based. Can you explain that a little bit? What do you mean by mostly plant-based?
So I'll eat meat. I'm not fanatical about it. I was vegan for a minute. It's so vegetarian is one thing. Vegan is really, really challenging just because other people being around. Vegetarian is pretty easy to do, but also I like meat sometimes, fish. So, but it's mainly plant-based. I might eat fish or some sort of animal protein, maybe once a week. Gotcha. So not very often, but mainly plant-based. And it's really more around trying to eat whole foods with as little processing as possible. And especially now also, you know, with they call it cancer diet, there's a lot of foods that you really want to stay away from and foods that you really want to make sure you capitalize on, and healthy organic vegetables are really good. So and I was eating mainly plant-based before the treatment, but have certainly doubled down afterwards.
Yeah, don't blame you. Like you said, it shifts perspective. So exercise, you mentioned you're a runner. What else do you do from an exercise perspective, or how frequently are you running?
Work out with a trainer, personal trainer, who actually, I hired this personal trainer back in 2015, and he ended up becoming one of my best friends. He also got me into running. We travel together a lot. And we do, so one of my other goals is to run an ultra marathon on every continent. He got me into running, and I hated it. It was an absolute slog until the first time I hit, I don't know, it must have been about 7 miles, and I got that runner's high, and it was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. So he's like, okay, do a half marathon. Then he said, pick a marathon, and started reading about it and found the original marathon from Marathon to Athens. Thought, well, that seems like the first marathon I should do. So I booked that, and he said, I want to go. And I'm really freaky about who I travel with, but it's like, okay, I'll try it. Ended up being one of the best travel companions I'd had. And so that night I said, okay, I want to try an ultra marathon. So we found an ultra, which was in the jungles of Nepal. And so we did that the next year, and then have been doing a destination ultra marathon almost every year since. So we got four continents down, 3 to go.
Well, I was going to say, so Antarctica, I only in the last year or so did I realize that there are trips to Antarctica from the southern tip of South America. I was going to ask you, do they actually run one there?
They do. There's actually 2 races. One is the most northern portion of the island, of the continent you can get, and it's on a gravel road between research stations.
Yeah, that's crazy. Antarctica's come up recently. I didn't realize there were 5,000 researchers there for that matter. So
that to me is crazy. I'm not going to Antarctica to run on a gravel road. The next one is 200 miles from true South Pole. And you have to wait for the right conditions. They fly you in. You're down there for no more than about 36 hours, fly back out. And that's the one we're going to do. Because that one is a bitch.
Yeah, I'll bet. I didn't catch that. So I mean, I was thinking that's good enough for me. You're on Antarctica. Check.
Nope. Yeah, it's kind of like the horizontal income. It'd be easy to put it there, but no, that's not the intent of what we wanted to do.
Great point. I like that. So there's integrity in what you're trying to do. I like that. That's great. Very cool. Incredible discussion on age-defying health. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable about what you're going through right now, especially. From a relationship standpoint, tell me a little bit about your family.
Single. My folks are here. My brother is back in Minneapolis. He's actually trying to figure out how to come out here. And they're just an incredible support group. I got really lucky. Well, they got lucky. I got lucky, however you want to say it. When I bought this house, it turns out it's about 12 minutes from my folks' place. Nice. So, during the whole COVID, I was their support crew. And then when the tables flipped and I was going through treatment, they were mine. So I've got an
for your brother. Why would he go to a cold environment like that, coming from a nice one like yours?
Well, he followed a woman, like, what else? But they're no longer married, and he's got a great job. But during the whole COVID thing, they said, okay, it's permanent work from home. So now he's trying to figure out how to make that transition.
Yeah, a lot's changed in the last year, that's for sure.
Oh, everything.
Life happiness. What's your life happiness index currently, and what's the lowest of those?
7.88, which is up from 5.44 last quarter, but I had a really good reason for that. And my lowest, sorry, I don't have, there it is. So the lowest is a 5 on romance.
Romance, okay.
Because when we're talking about family, talking about family, it's my folks and my brother. So yeah, there's nobody on that side yet. So that's why it's the lowest.
Gotcha. Tinder, anything like swiping left, right? I don't know how that stuff works.
I actually got back onto it, and I'm playing the game, and it's like anything. It's purely a numbers game.
Yeah. Romance has been tough the last year.
Have to play the numbers.
Yeah. And the last year, I mean, what could you do? Zoom dates, I guess. I mean, it would have been tough in some
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe, and then when I got the diagnosis, it's like, yeah, this might not be the best time to date.
Right. Oh, that makes perfect sense.
So.
All right, let's talk about genuine contribution. What is your give back ratio? If you just want to share what you give every year, that's fine as well.
So it's currently 7%. I was on Opera board here in Sacramento for a lot of years, so I donate to that. And then one of the other things I do is I have what I call my sharing account. So I put 10% of everything that I deposit into my primary account over to my sharing account. And I use that for anything and everything I want. So the house that I'm getting in PV next year, it's for a month. It's beachfront. I mean, it's this really incredible place, but I'm inviting down friends and family and everything's going to be paid for. So that comes out of the sharing account. So I just typically move over 10% and it's used for a lot of different things.
So when you say 7%, are you counting things like that, not just charitable donations?
Some of that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think people don't give themselves enough credit sometimes for that. Helping family or helping people within your network, not necessarily contributing to a charity to get you a tax deduction, is also contribution, genuine contribution.
Yeah.
So to me, it fits, it counts, right? So I like it. Who's in your GoPod and how often do you meet?
So I've got Ben, I can never say his name correctly, Trotron. Sorry, I thought there was a big bird. Ben Trotron, Kevin Miller, Kevin McGrath, and Brandon Kemp. We meet every 2 weeks, Thursday afternoons.
Gotcha. What's the prevailing topic right now in the GoPod?
So we talked about it a couple of different times because of one of them, a thing called helium, which is it's kind of shared bandwidth for IoT, Internet of Things, and then you get paid in helium coin. It's kind of like a little along the lines of Bitcoin. We may be getting in too late, but his son got in really early and is just really making some cash off of it. It's really funny.
Very cool. I like that. I like hearing when pods do things like that together. They help each other with horizontal income or financial wins, if you will. How's your GoPod experience been? Can you give us what are some takeaways that you've had over the last year, 2 years from being in your GoPod?
Oh, it's been great. Well, I've invested in 2 syndicated deals with two of them that they've done. So I've learned a lot about that. Because of my goal setting stuff, I've helped them kind of with goal setting and goal accountability. One of them does syndicated deals almost full time with his company. So another one, it's really very interesting. He does medical sales, but he's actually in the operating room, and he also does sober living houses. And he's just really doing extremely well with that. So it's all of us have really different things that we do. So it's really been intriguing what we can help each other learn and understand. It's been really cool.
I like that. That's cool. Do you have a big goal that you're trying to achieve? You mentioned goals. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but is there anything this year or in the next 2 years or anything that you want to share from your goal list that you're trying to?
So one of my biggest was to hit 5 million in assets this year. And that's been on there for a few years.
Very cool. Very cool. We're going to talk about bucket list adventures. Then I want to talk a little bit about goals. And you mentioned that you're a very goal-focused individual. That's near and dear to my heart with the Emerge program for GoBundance and everything. And I'd love to hear more about some work you're doing around goals and some things you're putting out there. But let's wrap up with bucket list adventures here. So have you been on any GoBundance trips? And if so, which ones?
I have not been on GoBundance, no. I had originally thought I was going to go on one. Then, of course, COVID kind of screwed up everything. Let me see. Oh, so your greatest hits.
Yes.
So I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
That was really fun. I hit 4 continents out of the 7 for running ultra marathons. First was in the jungles of Nepal. Crazy ass story about it was so much harder than I knew it was going to be. Took a lot longer. We ended up getting off course, getting lost, getting pit. It was just this crazy awesome story. And then my third one was this, which is a book I'm publishing June 15th.
Let's talk about that. What's the name of this book, and what sort of drove you to put this in writing?
So the book is called Goals That Matter, the Deceptively Simple System to Achieve Every Dream. Prior to GoPod, I actually belonged to the Quantum Leap Mastermind, Hal Elrod's group.
Yep.
And I had always been really goal focused. I had my goal sheet, and the one I work from today is different from the one that I was doing back then. But, I'd look at my goals once a month, maybe once a week if I was having a good month. And I read Hal's book in January of 2016, started the Miracle Morning Routine, and just made looking at my goal sheet part of my daily routine. And my life just changed drastically. And it's when I started having my short-term and long-term goals in front of me every single day that it just changed. And so I had developed that over a couple of years, went to my first mastermind retreat in Hal's group, and shared this sheet that I had developed with some of the other people. And they're like, I want that, I want that, I want that. And it just, over that 3-day retreat, I figured out that I needed to do this. Ended up coming up with the name, registering the domain name while I was there at the conference. My brother was flying out to meet me right after I got home to work on his, he had read the Miracle Morning. He was trying to figure out what to do. Pick him up from the airport. I had been offline for 3 days. And he said, my life's done. I said, what? And he said, my wife asked me for a divorce, 24 years. And so he was just destroyed and said, this is the best thing that could have happened. It's like, what are you talking about? You get to design your life. What do you want to do? And so we spent the next 3 days designing his perfect life using this new system that I had kind of sketched out on the plane coming home. And what he changed in a year was just beyond comprehension. He went through the divorce with grace. He lost 85 pounds. He started cycling. He got back. He bought a Harley. He got back into a Christian bike riding group. He just he reestablished a relationship with his first 2 kids that he lost relationship with. And he just changed his life. And it was using the basics of what the system evolved into. And then I started doing what I call the Goals That Matter live sessions, taking other entrepreneurs through the system, and just got all of this feedback of how much it was changing their lives. And I had always had this kind of back end dream of writing a book, but I had never actually made it a SMART goal by putting a timestamp on it. So I did, and ended up writing the book.
Wow. So when does the book drop again? Give us the dates.
June 15th will be available on Amazon.
2021 on Amazon. And one more time, the title.
Goals That Matter.
Goals That Matter. Amazing, man. That's an incredible story. And I love the fact that you have this evidentiary support of your system, right? Your brother, what he went through. That's for him to come home and say, my wife of 24 years just asked me for a divorce. And then for within the next 3 days after that, for you to put him in a position through your system to actually see light at the end of that tunnel, that could have set somebody back for months, years for that.
Oh, yeah.
And
the crazy thing is, his life had always been the glass was half empty. Mm-hmm. And he left, and it's been utterly amazing. Our relationship completely changed. His glass is half full now. And it's just been an amazing change in his life.
Yeah, this is the power of proximity. For people out there that may not be part of a mastermind or wonder what the heck is that, is it some sort of weird, boys club or girls club? It's about proximity. It's about what you just described, right? Your brother, you just said went from a pessimist to an optimist, in effect. By being around the right person at the right time. You with Hal Elrod prior to that, within your GoPod, people that are there to help get you to your goal of horizontal income or whatever the case may be, right? Proximity is so important, and that's what the value is that I get from being part of GoBundance, and it sounds like you have as well, along with other networks and connections that you have. So congrats on the book.
Thank you.
That's really cool. All right, we're going to wrap this with a question from the GoBundance card deck, a random one that I'll ask you now. It's heavy. If you could send a message to the entire world, what would you say in 30 seconds or less?
Wow. Yeah, that is heavy.
It's random. Promise.
Decide what matters. build a life by design, and execute.
Great billboard. Great billboard, and a great way to wrap this up. How can people get a hold of you, learn more about the book? What are some things that, some places you want to direct people?
So the website is www.goalsthatmatter.com. Hey, you can find me on Facebook, Michael Nelson. Also, there's the Goals That Matter site on Facebook as well.
Love it. Love it. I appreciate you being on, man. Thanks so much for opening up on, I mean, so many things that you told us about that. I really appreciate you doing that with us. And yeah, we'll see you at some event in the future. I'm hoping.
Yeah, summer event. Yeah, I'll be there in August. Look forward to seeing you.
Beautiful. Same here. All right, man.
Thanks,
Thank
Jamie.
you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know down in the comments, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be informed on the next episode and other content right here on this channel. Thank you.